Sakura tries to calm her down, and she's not listening. Um, and Sakura's in her bathrobe. I think Ino's dressed already. Can't remember. But she's halfway there, and got her sports bra on, I suppose, and she covers that when she screams as Lee falls through the roof. The boys are trying to see if the girls are all right. The girls are fine. They're just shaken, and Sakura and Sakura and Naruto defend Lee, although I think it's mostly Naruto, just like in the manga chapter. And Naruto says, no, he's not that kind of person. You know, and you know what I said about Lee not having seen, it seems like he hasn't changed? Well, uh, Hinata's excessive shaking rips rips all of Lee's clothes off to reveal Tenten's underwear. And Tenten realises that's where her underwear went. And of course she's extremely embarrassed. And Sakura and Naruto don't know how to react to this, and they're completely taken aback and gobsmacked. And of course kind of more disgusted too. So it seems that actually Lee has changed. Just not too obvious, but it's just not that clear. So it seems that he has a fetish for women's underwear, because he obviously stole it from Tenten once she got in the hot spring. So after that's all cleared up, Sakura and Naruto return home. Naruto goes to his apartment to find that somebody else is living there, much to his bewilderment. The lady throws him out, and it just makes his mood even worse. So he's left to wander around and try and find out where he is currently living in this world. Meanwhile, Sakura has come home and realised that her parents aren't around. She passes by a picture of her in a Jonin uniform holding a scroll outside the Ninja Academy. Now, in the film, her parents were standing beside her. At the beginning of the film, her parents were standing beside her. But in this scene, it's just her on her own. But she doesn't seem to appreciate the implications of this. And so sets about doing her own thing. She remembers what her mum said about her boots, and I think something about not leaving them lying about, and she just happily tosses them to the corner, kicks them off, and gets ready to just relax the whole evening. So you see her throughout most of the film, when she's at her house, doing whatever she wants, really milking it for all it's worth, and eating as much as she wants, whatever she wants, whenever she wants, and she's absolutely enjoying it. Naruto, on the other hand, when he gets to his parents' house and he opens the door to find them there, it obviously still hasn't sunk in for him yet that his parents truly are alive in the Genjutsu. So his reaction is to shut himself in his room. And Kushina tries to get him out because she's just made dinner and she wants him to eat it, but he's having none of that and refuses to come out, and his room is in a state because he's just in a fit of rage. He's thrown everything about because he's so frustrated and so confused, and that's understandable. But of course then Kushina's very famous temper kicks in, and she busts down the door. She bursts through the door, or rather she breaks it down, and she demands that Naruto comes and eats his dinner. And of course Naruto, absolutely terrified, has no choice but to comply. So he has dinner, but he's very subdued, and he excuses himself from the table and once again goes back into his room. Minato, who is cleaning dishes at this point with an apron on, which I find quite comical, sort of, tries to engage him in conversation, but Naruto just doesn't feel like talking. Not surprising, really. And basically just goes into his room again and shuts himself in. But before that happens, something on the bookshelf catches his eye, and it says in katakana Memma's photo album, and he opens it up, and to his surprise, and you've probably seen this in the footage on YouTube, he sees pictures of himself being raised by his family, being pushed on the swing, pushed on the swing by Kushina, being pushed on the swing by Kushina, having his birthday, what looks like his first birthday or second birthday celebrated with Minato and Kushina in the background, giving him presents and throwing and you know, with Minato and Kushina using party poppers and so on, and throwing streamers everywhere, and he just looks so happy, and he looks at it in wonder, page after page of happiness and joy, nothing but sheer nothing but sheer enjoyment and happiness and contentment. And it's almost, I guess it hurts Naruto to look at it, because he knows this is something he could never have, and he shuts the book and just decides to leave it for now. And I can't remember if he shuts himself in his room or not again, as I mentioned before, but I think he does. But at this point he's still very hesitant to feel any personal attachment to Minato and Kushina, even though they are clearly alive. And as I said, Sakura is very living it up in this world and really enjoying it, but after a while it gets obvious to her that it's becoming obvious to her that it's always going to stay quiet, and she finds herself slowly becoming more deflated and not really enjoying it anymore. And Naruto's the same. So they meet each other at night to talk, and this time, unlike when they were out of the genjutsu, it's quite a subdued conversation, and Sakura says how lonely she's feeling, and how this world can't, and how this genjutsu, they have to find some way to get out of it, because Madara could be doing anything to their village at that point, and that's their priority, to get out of there. And Naruto wholeheartedly agrees, because it's becoming painful for both of them at this point. So they go their separate ways and resolve to find a way to get out of the genjutsu, and find and track down Madara as soon as possible and defeat him, before anything else goes wrong. Now, the next morning, Sakura wakes up to see that Sasuke's silhouette, outside her window on the balcony, behind the closed curtains. She seems a bit bemused and can't believe that he's there, so I think she has to pinch herself, rub her eyes or something, to make sure he's actually there. And Sasuke holds out a rose and says, Sasuke says that he had noticed that she was worrying about something, that she'd seen worried the day before, and holds out a rose and says if anything is and says to tell him if anything is troubling her, because he will always be by her side. And of course Sakura blushes and clasps her hands together in glee, and she's very touched at Sasuke's gesture. And Sasuke's tone is very sincere, and he's got a smile on his face too. So this is a very nice SasuSaku moment. And I know Sasuke's a playboy, but there's something about this moment that was different, and I'll explain the difference later on when I get to the part which signifies how different this is. Anyhow, so Sakura takes the rose, and she's absolutely touched by his she absolutely loves what he's done. She's still blushing and touched, she's still happy, and so Sasuke's lifted her mood quite considerably. And so you see and you see later on the film that she's put the rose in a vase and keeps it there instead, so she obviously treasures it. So after that, again, I'm sorry, I don't really know, I can't really remember the order of the film, but at least I can remember most of what happened. Well, the mission I mentioned about earlier happens, and Naruto insists that he goes along with Minato and Kushina, um, most likely to find out what's going on here. Of course, his parents are reluctant because they don't want him to get hurt, and they have a bit of an argument, but um, Tsunade lets him go. I think he appeals to her as well, and she lets him go. Tsunade, I forgot to mention, speaks very formally in this film, very politely, the way Shizune does. So it's very interesting to hear her speak in such a manner. But anyway, so Minato, Kushina, Naruto, and of course Sakura, because Sakura has to tag along as well. Tsunade says that she has to. They go off to find, to see if they can find out what Jiraiya discovered in his search. So he's obviously hidden whatever he's discovered somewhere, and they need to find it. But soon they are confronted by Minato's summon toad, Gamabunta. Now Gamabunta, Naruto's relieved to see another friend, well, what seems to be a friendly and familiar face, and he wants to talk to Gamabunta, but Gamabunta's having none of it, and starts attacking him, and Naruto doesn't understand what's going on, but he still goes in there anyway and tries to subdue the frog. Minato and Kushina are very scared for their son, because they don't want him to get hurt. So it seems in this genjutsu, Minato and Kushina obviously Minato and Kushina love their son very much, and I suppose it would only make sense that they'd be protective of their son had they been alive in the real world. So this gives us a glimpse as to what the family dynamic would be like had they been what the family dynamic would have been like had Naruto grown up with his parents and had they gone on a mission together. And of course Sakura comes along to be the medical ninja and help them if they get injured. Naruto tries and fails to reason with Gamabunta, so in the end he resolves to use Sage Mode, but it's very hard to keep still because Gamabunta is constantly trying to throw him off. In the end he tries to settle on the frog's head to be able to stay still and gather the natural energy that he needs to get into Sennin Mode. However, Sennin Mode doesn't activate because he falls, and Gamabunta attacks him with what looks like acid, because it's purple and it obviously will burn if you touch it, and he releases that towards Naruto, but Kushina, aware that her son's going to be hit, leaps in the way, and her foot gets singed, and it lands on her ankle, I think, ankle or her foot, and she screams in pain. She cries out in pain, and Naruto can only just look on helplessly as she falls, as she plummets to the ground, and he's absolutely gobsmacked that she's done this for him. And at that point, his disbelief is overridden with worry, overridden by anxiety, and he falls to the ground as well. But Minato, who's been fighting the other frogs because Gamabunta has called upon the rest of his allies, sees that Kushina is falling and uses the Hiraishin Jutsu to be able to transport her to a safer location, similar to the way in which he did it in the special episode where they showed the birth of Naruto. Naruto, on the other hand, gets rescued as well, I think, by him, and Minato saves the day once he's rescued his son and his wife, by finding the seal which had activated and caused Gamabunta and his friends to appear. So he deactivates that using his special Fuinjutsu skills, and the frogs disappear. Then he finds a small case which is shaped like a little house. It's all constructed out of wood. He opens the doors, and inside is the scroll that Jiraiya was carrying in the flashback that occurred later, had occurred earlier in the film when it was disclosed that Jiraiya had been searching and discovered something, and that was the scroll that was shown in the flashback. So he picks it up, takes it with him, and they return to they go to the safe location. They return to the location where he returns to the location where Naruto, Sakura, and Kushina are.